Live in Western Oregon, this is NBC 16 News at 6:30.
First at 6:30, amid a potential end to the Bigfoot Beverages strike, Bigfoot doubled down today on its decision to permanently replace striking workers. Good evening. Thanks for joining us for NBC 16 News at 6:30. I'm Alan Matthews. This comes just days after the strike passed the 200-day mark. NBC 16's Gold Meadows has the details.
Bigfoot Beverages sent out a news release Thursday stating its move to permanently replace striking workers was allowed by law. And while Teamsters offered Bigfoot an unconditional return to work for striking workers, Bigfoot says it will not let go of current team members. The company claims replacement workers endured harassment and threats by union picketers, leading to a lawsuit filed by Bigfoot in November against the Teamsters Local 206 and Local 324. On rehiring striking workers, Bigfoot Beverages sent the following statement to our newsroom. All vacant positions are currently filled by replacement workers. Returning employees will therefore be placed on a preferential hiring list for reinstatement based on their seniority. Teamsters, in a release of its own, said Bigfoot is refusing to allow union members to return to their positions, saying, quote, "This greedy, abusive company is violating the law. Employers cannot permanently replace workers who engage in an unfair labor practice strike." The union said it will file additional charges against Bigfoot for the lockout. Meanwhile, a University of Oregon professor tells us there are two types of labor strikes. One is when workers strike about money and can be replaced by permanent workers. The other is when workers say the employer broke the law, known as an unfair labor practice, like the Bigfoot strike.
The key difference under federal law is that if you are out on strike because your employer violated the law, you cannot be permanently replaced. When you make an unconditional offer to return, you have to be taken back. The National Labor Relations Board needs to hear those cases, and it's a very slow-moving bureaucracy. But their legal protections, which gives them the right to get their jobs back when the strike is done, does not depend on how that hearing plays out.
Teamsters historically strike over law breaking, and another point of concern is Bigfoot no longer recognizing the Teamsters union, Lafer said.
It kind of follows a classic union busting playbook where an employer says, I'm going to force you out on strike over something that's an existential threat to your families of changing the pensions, and then hire people. I know that Bigfoot also at one point said, we think that most people who work here don't want the union anymore, so we don't recognize the union. That's also illegal. There is a legal process under federal labor law to have an election.
That election is called a decertification election that must be conducted by the Labor Board. Teamsters Local 324 said there was not a legitimate decertification election with Labor Board oversight, arguing that Bigfoot's latest release is full of lies. We reached out to Bigfoot for interviews, but the company declined. We also shared with Bigfoot the professor's concerns over the legality of its hiring practices during the strike, but we have not received a response. In Eugene, I'm Gold Meadows.
The union also said it was unable to conduct an interview with us today because it was in negotiations with Bigfoot. While we now know the name of the woman who died in the fatal pedestrian crash on Amazon Parkway, Sharon Johnson Schumann was struck and killed yesterday just before 10 a.m. She was 79 years old. Eugene police say that the driver lost control of his car, driving over the curb into the grass before hitting Johnson, who was walking along the bark path. Eugene's former mayor, Kitty Piercy, offering words of remembrance for her, saying that she was a vigorous, intelligent, kind, determined, talented person and a very fine musician. A judge today temporarily blocked the Trump administration's push to end diversity, equity, and inclusion policies in public grade schools after a lawsuit was filed by multiple districts, including across the nation, including 4J in Eugene. The lawsuit came roughly 2 weeks after the Trump administration sent out the Dear Colleague letter on February the 14th, threatening to withhold federal funding if schools didn't end their DEI policies. The National Education Association and the ACLU filed a lawsuit in response, saying the move violates the First Amendment. States were originally given until the end of today to certify that local schools were in compliance. In a statement, 4J board member Jenny Jonek said in part, quote, "The court's order ensures that our public schools can continue to provide fair and equal access to public education for all our students, and we can continue to provide an environment that helps every student feel a sense of safety and belonging." The University of Oregon's President Carl Schultz has joined hundreds of other colleges across the nation in signing a letter pushing back against perceived government overreach on higher education. That letter, published April 22nd, was written by the American Association of Colleges and Universities, which says it's open to legitimate government oversight and constructive reform, but rejects withholding public research money as a way to coerce universities. It's asking for constructive engagement, but wants to maintain autonomy when it comes to who to admit and what to teach. As of this afternoon, the letter has signatures from 443 colleges. A judge is blocking the Trump administration from enforcing 2 executive orders that seek to withhold federal funds from sanctuary cities. The decision allows a group of 16 counties and cities to continue receiving federal funds while they challenge the executive orders in court. The Justice Department argues that an injunction is unwarranted since the White House has yet to act on the orders, but the judge disagreed, citing a similar order Trump issued during his first term as the basis for the ruling. President Trump lashing out at Russian President Vladimir Putin after Russia launched a major attack on Ukraine overnight. Trump told reporters during a meeting with the Norwegian Prime Minister in the Oval Office today that he believed Putin would listen to his plea to halt strikes on Ukraine and that a peace deal was still possible. NBC's Gabe Gutierrez has more from Washington.
President Trump is insisting that he is putting pressure on Russian President Vladimir Putin, but right now, any peace deal for the war in Ukraine seems a long way off. Overnight, Russia launched a major attack in Kyiv, dozens of missiles, more than 100 drones. President Trump writing on social media, quote, "Vladimir, stop," adding that he was not happy with the strikes on Kyiv. Not necessary, Trump said. In the past few hours, the president welcomed the Prime Minister of Norway to the White House, and reporters asked Trump whether he thought Putin was listening to him. Trump responded, "I do." Just a short time ago in the Oval Office, the president was asked what concessions Russia should make to end the war. The president said not taking any more territory. Of course, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is dismissing any proposal that his country recognize Crimea as Russian territory. Zelensky has cut short a trip to South Africa to deal with the ongoing destruction in his country. It is not clear where peace talks go from here. Secretary of State Marco Rubio pulled back from attending talks in London, while a separate U.S. envoy is going. President Trump and President Zelensky are both set to attend Pope Francis's funeral this Saturday. Gabe Gutierrez, NBC News, Washington.
All right, turning now to weather and giving you a live look over Eugene. Some sunshine to start the day, but that cloud cover has been on the increase and temperatures also cooling down as well. We're starting to see some rain move into the area. Currently in Eugene, we're at 67 degrees under a cloudy sky. Southwest wind at 15, so it's a little bit on the breezy side out there, and our humidity at 51%. Now, as we take a look at the radar satellite, and like I said, some rainfall already moving into the area. You can see some showers moving into Douglas and Coos County. There was thunderstorm activity just to the south earlier this evening, but that has apparently died down a little bit. Now, as we look ahead toward tonight and into your day on Friday, overnight temperatures will be in the mid to upper 40s. Looking at the possibility of rain tonight into tomorrow. Those highs tomorrow also turning cooler in the low to mid 60s. And as far as your weather headlines are concerned, again, that rain chance tonight with a few possible thunderstorms in the valleys. Scattered showers, though, for Friday and Saturday with a better chance of rainfall down to the south. And we will be looking at near average temperatures for the weekend. Your complete weather forecast coming up in just a few moments. While developing tonight, the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife is investigating reports of sick and dead brown pelicans along the Oregon coast. Several pelican carcasses have been collected for testing. So far, lab results don't indicate bird flu. Disease or toxic algae hasn't been ruled out. Harmful algae blooms have sickened brown pelicans and other wildlife, including sea lions in Southern California. If you do find a sick, resting, or dead pelican, you're asked to leave it alone and keep your pets away. A judge says prosecutors can seek the death penalty against Brian Kohberger if he is convicted in the killing of 4 University of Idaho students. Kohberger faces 4 counts of first-degree murder in the 2022 stabbing deaths. His attorneys had asked the judge to remove the death penalty as a possible punishment, citing his autism spectrum disorder. Prosecutors argued under Supreme Court precedent, only an intellectual disability would disqualify him from such a sentence. The judge agreed. The trial is scheduled to start in August.